Curious, first of all, just an update on Antonio and then Matt Ioannidis. We saw Matt going through some positional stuff.
Yeah, Antonio's fine, and Matt did a nice job today. He was limited in participation, and we'll see how he reacts to everything tomorrow.
With Antonio, because of that 17th game, do you have to manage him a little bit differently than in a previous year at all?
No, not necessarily. I think you manage him according to how he's feeling, and and that's not and that's true for everybody else. You got to manage guys that play a lot, that take a lot of hits.
And how is he through the first 2 games? How do you feel he's looked?
He's done well. He's improving every week. That's big. I really like the effort. I like what he gets out of practice and gives us during practice. I think he works hard at it, and he's just going to continue to grow and get better for us.
Ron, what are the challenges that you think that Josh Allen presents for your defense, and what do you think of his ability to extend plays?
Well, I think his ability to run is obviously something that we've got to be disciplined about. We saw it last week with Daniel Jones, so the emphasis has been on that, making sure we're prepared for it, make sure we understand what our role is and how we fit that role. I think that's one of the things that we've got to be really sharp with. I think his ability to throw, especially throw the deep ball, the hard play action they give you, he's really good at the play fakes, which allows for the receivers to get downfield, to get in behind those linebackers. So we have to be, again, disciplined, reading our keys, and then getting back to where we need to be to force the higher throws.
Ron, what do you guys do in terms of preparedness? I think we asked Scott this yesterday, but in terms of preparing your wide receivers for some of the press man that they're going to see with this Bills defense in particular, which is a little bit different than what you guys have had the 2 weeks, specifically Diami and some of the younger receivers, what do you guys do to prepare them for the difference in how they're going to be covered?
Well, I will say this, against against the Chargers, Diami got pressed a lot, and it was kind of a little bit of an awakening for him at first, he said. But once he got used to it and understood just how important it is to get off clean and win at the line of scrimmage. So it is something that we do talk about. It's something that they do work on as far as movement. When a guy lines up over the top and trying to release and get downfield as quickly as possible. And the emphasis is getting off as clean as you can to get into your route, so you can get into the combinations that you need to be.
Just generally curious, with Logan Thomas, he talked about the next evolution for him is obviously helping the people in the tight end room get 5% better if he can. I'm curious, how much better can he get if he gets a little bit more support from guys like John Bates or Ricky Seals-Jones? How much pressure will that take off of him moving forward this season if they step up some more?
Well, it'll take a lot of pressure off him, but for what we do and the way we do it with the tight ends, obviously he fits perfectly the role, and we're working those out with the other guys. It will take a little bit of pressure off him because some of the dirty work he won't have to do as much. But right now he's doing a lot. But yeah, I think Ricky's starting to emerge in his own way and finding his way. And I think John, again, he's still growing as a Samus. So they got a little bit of ways to go. It would be nice to have a third one that was ready already. So you could roll him in a little bit more. But I think right now for Logan, it's just helping him to continue to develop, as a receiving and blocking tight end.
You've had 52 guys on your roster for a little while now. What's the reasoning behind that?
There's no real hurry for us to do anything. We like our situation, our circumstances where we are. We've looked at a lot of people out there. We don't feel the need or the urgency right now. They're everybody's healthy, and so we're just going to see what happens after this week, and we'll go from there. I mean, when we made the last move we did with Fitz, it came on a short week, and we only had 4 days, and so instead of just forcing somebody up, we thought we would wait and see how we got out of the Thursday game, and then we looked at the roster again and said, you know what, everybody's relatively healthy. We're fine right now, but who knows, and we'll wait to see what happens after Buffalo.
And we've seen Curtis out there too early to anticipate whether he might rejoin practice next week.
We'll see. He's had a good week, good solid week, as has Derek Forrest, so you feel really good about him. So we'll see, again, what happens after Sunday.
Nice. I got one more for you. You said the other day you wouldn't be so frustrated with the defense if they weren't so talented and capable of so
Correct.
much. Do you sense that this week or this extended week has provided a wake-up call on that kind of maturity you've been talking about?
I think if anything provides it is, looking at the tapes That to me is probably more important for those guys to understand, because when you look at when they do things the way they're capable of, they're pretty darn good, and we see that. We see that with the rush, we see that with the run defense, we see that with the coverage. So really, to me, it's we've talked a lot about it, and I really do think a lot has been said. It's just a matter again of continue to work together, continue to grind together, and understand just how important it is that we all do our job.
Scott made the point yesterday that for a guy like Taylor, if he has 5 good games in a row and then a 6th bad game, people fall back on their initial evaluation, undrafted guy, things like that. I wonder for you, why is it hard for people, GMs or coaches or anyone, to move past that initial evaluation, you think?
People don't want to be wrong. That's the truth of the matter. You at some point have to admit a mistake, and people don't want to admit that. So I think that's one of the things that's unfair about it. But it goes back to the old saying: you treat everybody fair, but you don't treat everybody the same, and that's what people look at, unfortunately. And you have to be willing in certain circumstances to say, we were wrong, we made a mistake, and move on from it and work on something else. But I think that's one of the reasons why it happens. And that's why some people stick with first and second rounders a little bit longer than they need to or they should, as opposed to all of a sudden something bad happens and a free agent's tossed. That's I think is the explanation.
Is that something that you've seen from yourself or tried to work on yourself throughout your coaching career?
I would say I probably went through that initially, but really the thing that I've learned more than anything else is really it's about the contribution. Can the guy help, and how does he help us win? That's probably the more important thing, I think. And we went through a little bit of that last year, and fortunately with the support of ownership, we were able to go ahead and move from some guys that, in spite of their situations, their draft status, we were able to, like I said, make some moves and hopefully make good moves so we can go forward.
Ron, you said earlier in the week that you felt like Chase and Montez might be getting more attention, or at least from the Giants, more so than the Giants gave Denver. Did the numbers ultimately show that? What did you see, just going back? Because I remember you said you.
Well, somebody put out some numbers too that kind of supported that as well. That I think we've as a team have faced the second most amounts of double teams and play action passing. So the numbers are there that will support that. From what I understand. Now, I can say, like I told you, on my own, counting them, there's a substantial number of double teams, chips, and play action passes.
And are there things you guys can do to counter that, be it scheme, technique? I mean, when those two face that kind of extra attention, how do you?
Well, part of it is depending on what type of protection they have, there's going to be some people that are going to be singled up. Those guys have to win. They really, truly do. Secondly, the guys that are getting double have to put it upon themselves to understand how to rush the doubles, how to attack them. And that's one of the things that we have been talking about, we've been working with in terms of getting both Chase and Montez to understand what's going to happen. Part of it is understanding that, if I'm going to get this action from this guy, will I attack it that way? If I'm getting this, then I go ahead and do that. I mean, they have to understand exactly what is going to benefit them as far as attacking, double teams.
Just one quick follow-up with those two. They're both coming off really strong seasons. Do you have to at all temper their expectations going into this season? I mean, is there any frustration on their part as they kind of work?
Oh, yeah, they get frustrated. I mean, they want to make plays. I mean, that's the truth. I mean, these guys they're high-impact players. They know it. But the thing that comes with it comes the responsibility of people paying a little more attention to, understanding what they're going to try to do to create time for their quarterbacks. They're not going to sit there and line up all the time one-on-one and take their chances. They're going to try and do it judiciously by figuring out when can they single up, when do they have to double, when do they have to chip, when are they going to run play action. That's the things our guys have to understand.